These deities are quite perambulatory. They move around all the time. Inside, outside, and all around.
They might be tied when they were installed on Radha.
They were installed, that explains
Chicago,
it.
1975.
Okay. That explains everything. When was the first you saw Radha Damodar? The first time I saw Radha Damodar was in Harlem, on, what's the name of the stick? There's a cross street.
125th.
Yeah. I was like, what? Radha Krishna deities in Harlem? They're very merciful deities. Nimai just is similar height. Radha Damodar a little taller. Okay, so I would like to speak on a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, following the verse from this afternoon. So those of you that weren't with us after this afternoon, too bad. No, those of you that weren't with us this afternoon, I'll give you a little review of 551. But those of you that have a little handheld device of one kind or another, you can look it up. Canto 5, Chapter 5, text number 2, 552. Many of you know how to do that. If you don't, ask somebody near you and they'll help you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Jayamudirayet.
Tato Jayamudirayet.
Now, I'll say the verse. You've heard this verse hundreds of times, if not hundreds of times. So, it's a nice verse we can say responsibly twice. And then I'll read the translation. Mahatsevam dwaram ahor vimuktes.
Mahatsevam dwaram ahur vimuktes.
Tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam.
Tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam.
Mahantas te samachitta prashanta.
Mahantaste samachita prashanta.
Vimanyavasurida sadhavoye.
Manyavasurida sadhavoye.
Very good. That's one more time. Mahatsevam dwaram ahor vimuktes.
Mahatsevam dwaram ahur vimuktes.
Tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam.
Tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam.
Mahantas te samachitta prashanta.
Mahantaste samachita prashanta.
Vimanyavasurida sadhavoye. Translation. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. What? Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They're very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger, and they will work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas. Now, something very interesting. Verse number 2 follows verse number 1. And so verse number 1 gives two parts. One is the path leading to hell and the path leading to liberation. And the path leading to liberation is the path of serving the Mahats. So this verse, Tapo divyam putra kriyena sattvam, chudyad yasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. So one should engage in Tapo divyam, and in that divine austerity with the purpose of divinity, or the purpose of connecting, so yoga, connecting with the Supreme, Tapo divyam. And one who does that, awaiting them is spiritual happiness. Brahma, spiritual. Saukyam, happiness, spiritual happiness, is the award, or is awaiting the destination of those who do this Tapo divyam. And then this next verse is Mahatsevam. So, and then who is that? The Mahatsevam Dwaram. Dwaram means gate or entryway. Dwaram. Mahat Dwaram. Sevam. Mahat Sevam Dwaram. Ahur vimuktes. Ahur means going up. Upward direction. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. Then for it's not directly in the Sanskrit, but Prabhupada inserts something we don't, not used to hearing Prabhupada insert. This means either the impersonalists or the personalists. Not in the Sanskrit. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. So this is a broader picture. The Mahatma means one who's attached to Brahma Saukyam, or spiritual happiness, or Brahman. Brahman. Brahman in a broad sense means spirit, as opposed to matter. Spirit and matter. So those that are attached to spirit, and they have different categories. Some are attached to an impersonal conception, that's the mind, or those that are attached to a spiritual conception. That's the mind in devotion. The negative is, don't be attached to those that have affinity for matter and finding happiness through searching through a place where there's no happiness, namely matter. Souls don't find happiness in matter. There's no happiness in that place. There's no water in a desert. There's no happiness in a place where there's no happiness. By design. Prison houses aren't nice places. Even if it's a first-class prison. There are such things in prisons. For, celebrities or VIPs, they have a first-class prison house. But they're confined. It's a punishment. Restricted. If they won't be restricted, they'll be restricted. Not be restricted by state law, they'll be restricted by prison. And there's God's law, and those that aren't restricted by God's law, there's material world. And there's restrictions imposed, and you can't do anything about it. You can try to do something about it. People try to do something about it. Adjust it. So it's not so nasty. And the not so nasty becomes nasty. It's how the Vajra energy works. If you take the position of wanting happiness apart from the source of happiness, you get the opposite. If you go away from light, you get darkness. It's very simple. So tamasi ma jyotirgama. Go toward the light. Go towards the affinity for transcendence. So one can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities, those that haven't taken the affinity for asat, but have affinity for sat. They may have their less complete or more complete conceptions of sat, or truth, or Brahman, or the absolute truth. More complete, less complete. But don't go the other direction. That's the first verse. The path to hell is open for those that have the affinity for the asat. The Mahatmas, then there's this characterization. If I want to associate with those people that are going to take me to light instead of darkness, what are some of the characteristics? The Sanskrit is samachitta. Samachitta. Looking around the assembly here. The devotees here many devotees here have been around for quite some time. Those of you that have been around for quite some time, you know there are lots of people that aren't practicing bhakti, but they like what's called in the marketplace yoga. It's not really what yoga is, but it goes under the name yoga. It means, hatha yoga, asanas, maybe sometimes pranayama, two of the eightfold yoga systems. And then this word chitta is a word that the teacher of the yoga system, the celebrity personality, Patanjali, speaks about. The purpose of yoga is to curb the swirling of the mind. He uses the example of the waves of a river. And the waves of a river can make things messy for a boat, especially when it's really stormy. And yoga, the effectiveness of yoga, everybody here is doing some kind of Hare Krishna chanting, most likely. So we all have the experience of the mind swirling. So this is the phrase that he uses, chitta vritti, the swirlings of the chitta, of the mind or consciousness, chitta vritti, and the standard or the test for what a yoga system is it diminishes the swirlings of chitta vritti. So that's a good way for us to help us understand. Some of us have been chanting Hare Krishna for some number of years, a whole bunch of years, and we all looking around the room, in the area here, been practicing Krishna consciousness for a good number of years. And a way that you can examine yourself is that chitta becomes less turbulent. The waves of the mind, the movements of the mind become more steady. And here, the phrase is used, the symptom of the Mahatmas, samachitta. They have equal disposition towards all. Similar to Bhagavad Gita, pandita samadarshana. You see others with equal vision, samadarshana. Similar, samachitta. They're not in the friends and enemies, or the I and mine, the us and them, the turbulent position. That makes the mind turbulent. It's already turbulent. Makes the mind more turbulent, us and them. Because it's not only me and my mind, it's me and somebody else's mind, and they clash. That it's social interaction clashes. They're the symptom of Mahatmas. They don't have that. Inside, chitta vritti nirodha is the companion word. Diminish the swirlings of the mind. That's the internal. And then interpersonal is sama chitta. Equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. Now, certainly there's differences. There's differences of coverings, and there are differences of the soul that's covered. But that's not differences in the sense of discriminating, you're my friend and you're my enemy. You're one of us and they're one of them. The us and them. Conflicting situation. Thus, you can still see, it's not that a Mahatma can't see what's what. You're walking across the grass here. You can see where's the grass and where's the pavement, and up there's the stairs, and you can see what's what. It's not your intelligence shuts down, or your senses shut down. You can see, you can discriminate, you can discern this from that. But you don't make value judgments, this or that. That's the nature of a great soul. Their kindness and compassion goes towards those who are suffering and who isn't. Living entities with bodies are suffering, without exception, bodies and minds, gross and subtle, suffering. So samachitta, or that's seeing with equal vision, not discriminating friend and enemy, but treating others with kindness, appropriate to one's situation. They're very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. The mind becomes peaceful when you're fully engaged in devotional service. Or say it the opposite. You won't become peaceful if you're not fully engaged in devotional service. It's like devotional service gives spiritual strength. Supposing somebody is not very spiritually strong. That's a lot of us, not so spiritually strong. Engage in devotional service, you receive strength. To do devotional service, it takes some strength. And you engage in devotional service and you receive some strength. Bala. Prabhupada writes it in Krishna book when he's describing the appearance of Balaram. I mean, it's a teaching of the Vedas, but one requires Bala, or Balaram, one requires spiritual strength to engage in devotional service. And Krishna's ready, or Balaram's ready, to give spiritual strength. Just turn to him. He's ready. You turn away from him, and where's the spiritual strength? But you turn towards him, and there's spiritual strength immediately. Just like you turn towards light, towards the sun, and there's light, or the source of light, and there's light. Immediately, the shadow is back there. The light is in front. It's very simple. So, by full engagement in devotional service, then one becomes peaceful. It's a comparison I like is ballast in a ship. Sometimes ships are constructed in such a way they have this big, heavy thing hanging down at the bottom of the hull, or sometimes they're just in the hull, in the ship itself. They put some very heavy weight. Maybe you know the story of Madhvacharya. Here's the story of Madhvacharya and how he got the deity of Krishna. There was a ship, cargo ship, traveling from the northern part of India along the west coast to the southern part of India along the west coast, and he had some cargo. And to help keep the ship stable, because sometimes the sea is not so calm. Sometimes the sea is very rough. So they put some heavy weight in the bottom of the hull of the ship. So one ship was stuck at a sandbar, very similar to the whole story of the deity of Madan Mohan, the deity of Madan Mohan. So the ship got stuck, and Madhvacharya happened at that time to be by the sea. He took his garment, with upper garment, with Hariya, and waved his upper garment in the air, and the ship got unstuck. And the captain of the ship saw that, and he understood what happened. So when the ship was able to get free from the sand dune, or the position they were stuck from, he came to the shore of the sea and said, I saw this sadhu. Where's this sadhu? I want to thank this sadhu and make some gift because he rescued my ship. So he found Madhvacharya and he said, in the hull of your ship, there's some chandan, clay. And you just make a gift of chandan and I can use it. Thank you. That's all you want? Just some clay from the hull of the ship? Yeah, sure. So Madhvacharya, this is just a story to go along with the purport here. Madhvacharya was a partial incarnation of whom? Who was his father? Vayu. So Madhvacharya, was known to be able to take big jumps like Hanuman and Bhima, and both were very strong. So Madhvacharya took this. They couldn't take it off the hull of the ship. Madhvacharya went, picked it up, and was carrying it back to his ashram, some tilak. And when it slipped from his hand, it fell to the ground, and the deity of Krishna came out. Inside, he didn't just want some tilak or clay. There was a deity of Krishna inside. And that deity of Krishna, that his story was traced back because he was very good at histories, is a deity that came from Dwaraka. Way back during the time of Krishna, and over the centuries, it became covered with clay. So he was given this deity of Krishna from Dwaraka to worship. And that became the central deity in Udupi Krishna. There's 9 temples, other avatars of Vishnu in the center is Udupi Krishna. So he was strong. And because of spiritual strength, he was very peaceful. Because of his absorption, it's like ballast in a ship. When you're absorbed in devotional service, that can be calm, that can be a little turbulent, that can be really stormy. Have you ever passed through some periods of time when it's really stormy? We all have. So what do you need? You need spiritual strength. That's like ballast in the ship. So practice devotional service regularly, carefully, attentively. Hear the Bhagavatam, hear the Mahamantra, hear transcendental subject matters very attentively. And it gives spiritual strength. Even when it's not particularly strong, it comes with that sound. They are devoid of anger. Now, Prabhupada speaks about this in Bhagavad Gita. Anger has its place. Arjuna couldn't have fought the Kurukshetra battle without anger, etc. Anger has its place, but not any old thing get you upset and so you become angry. Or specifically, when there's vilification of the Supreme Lord or vilification of a devotee of the Supreme Lord, that's a cause for anger. You don't just smile. I'm a pacifist Vaishnava. So what do you do? But how is that anger exhibited? Depends on the circumstance. Our solution when there's disturbance that may provoke anger, have kirtan. Like I would just a little sharing. Gitanagari is a very nice place, and one of the things that we have been doing in Gitanagari for a few years is have retreats for new people. If you want a nice name for a retreat that can just mean anything, here's one of those names. Body, Mind, Spirit Retreat. What's that? It's anything. You fill in the blank. Body, Mind, Spirit. Sounds nice. So there was a session where we were just, the topic was, one of the topics was, the practice of mindful meditation helps one overcome negative emotions. So one person was saying, what do you do with your mind when you see some person or persons being hurt? And then he brought it up, and then right in front of us, he just started getting angry. I mean, he didn't pick up any weapon or something, but his energy, his voice, his whole everything was like, he was angry because he was thinking of circumstances that made him angry, and he just became angry. And what do you do when that happens? And then he was saying, why not go on war protests or something, and it took him a while. He just went on. Once he wound down and was ready to hear an answer, a reply. We may go to some events that are a protest against something or other. We go and chant Hare Krishna. And those people that sing, carry one of our signs, you guys. You singing and dancing like this, you're useless. I mean, they don't necessarily say that, but they generally think that if they don't say that. It's useless. Do something useful. Make noise and help burn down the such and such building, show your teeth. Because people are being mean. You can't just be a pacifist. So the chanting of Hare Krishna is not pacifist. It's the root of the problem is a heart that's not clean. That's why people do mean stuff and why people become angry when people do mean stuff, because both sides. Here's a little Prabhupada story. I think it's okay to tell a little Prabhupada story, yes? It can be a little bit delicate, but once upon a time, I've even as a young brahmachari, we liked sending Sankirtan parties to universities. That's one of the things we did. Do this one, that one, the other one. They would come back to the temple. So one of the places we sent some devotees on book distribution was Princeton University. Because Princeton's not so far away from New York City. It's not around the corner, but it's not so far away. So the party went to Princeton. And one of the persons who was a student at Princeton was Bhakti Tirtha Swami. Little detail, Bhakti Tirtha Swami was a brilliant student. He graduated numero uno, valedictorian of his class. And he was the president of his class at the same time. A black person. In that time, that was like, whoa. And the book that he got was Ishopanishad. And from reading the book, he went to the temple. From reading the book and going to the temple, he decided when he graduated, he would join the Hare Krishna movement. And after some time, joining the Hare Krishna movement, he had an opportunity to meet with Prabhupada. I don't know if this was before his initiation or after. I don't recall that chronology. But when he had a chance to meet with Prabhupada, he wanted like this heaviness in his heart, wanted to tell Prabhupada that in the Hare Krishna movement there's racial prejudice, racial discrimination. And Prabhupada's answer was twofold. It was a build up. When the story is told, it's like he tells us. I heard him tell the story. It was like a big deal because he joined the Hare Krishna. He wanted a peaceful life where people don't discriminate. People discriminate in the Hare Krishna movement. And so Prabhupada's reply, two, not very good. And after a short pause, but if that disturbs your mind, you're no better than they are. The flip side of the coin. And he got it. I mean, he could have had all kinds of responses, but he understood what that meant. Don't discriminate in terms of us and them, based upon whatever it is, caste, creed, color, something. The covering is not the person. And to discriminate based upon the covering, that's not good. And if you're disturbed by it, you're no better than they are. You're on the flip side of that coin. And it's not just him, it's just a principle. The principle is, it's not good that people are mean. Like this fellow that at our retreat, it was like angry. Ooh. And the topic was through meditation, one can overcome anger. And it's true. It's true. Negative emotions, anxiety, depression, Where does it come from? It comes from the contamination of heart. And what do you do about the contamination of heart? Remove the contamination. What do you do to remove the contamination? Take the proper treatment that the scripture recommends. So back to the Mahatma. The Mahatma is peaceful. And they're absorbed in devotional service, fully engaged in devotional service, devoid of anger. They work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as the Mahatmas. So it's a nice little inventory of the Mahatma position. I'm just going to read, it's a short paragraph. Now, I picked the verse 551 and 552 because from my experience, some of you may do the same thing. I have this little recording device. It's not a recording device, it's a playback device. About that big, it sits in the palm of my hand. And every day for a number of years, maybe 40 years, 50 years, I listen to that. I listen to Prabhupada lectures every day for about 2 hours, while I'm doing stuff, brushing teeth and shaving and this and that and taking prasadam and, this and that. I listen, I hear my spiritual master. And so the playback device goes through the recordings in sequence. And Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 1, there's some number, I didn't count, because I kept hearing the same class given in so many different cities, because he likes speaking on these two verses, because they're so important. What not to do, what to do. Rishabh is instructing his sons, and Prabhupada is instructing us by instructing what Rishabh is instructing to his sons, and how to discern what a Mahatma is, and rendering, not just hang out, but render service to, in a submissive mood. As we heard a little bit before, Summit Pani, in a humble mood, just doing some menial service to the person, not just to the air, or to the light, or to impersonal something, to a person, and the representative of the Supreme Person, the Mahatma. So I'm going to read the purport and stop abruptly, and let's see if there's some discussion. The human body is like a junction. One may either take the path of liberation or the path leading to a hellish condition. How can one take these paths as described herein? on the path of liberation when associated with Mahatmas, and the path of bondage when associated with those attached to sense gratification and women. There are two types of Mahatmas. He goes into it, the impersonalist and the devotee. Although their ultimate goal is different, the process of emancipation is almost the same, that is, detachment from the temporary. Both want eternal happiness, as from the previous verse, Brahma Sokyam, spiritual happiness. One seeks happiness in the impersonal Brahman. The other seeks happiness in the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, described in the first verse of this chapter, Brahma Sokyam. Brahman means spirit or eternal. Both the impersonalists and the devotee seek eternal blissful life. In any case, it is advised that one become perfect. Okay. In the words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Asat Sangha Tyagi E Vaishnav Achar, Sri Sangi Eka Asado Krishna Bhakta are non-devotee, Krishna Bhakta. Remain unattached to the modes of material nature. One should avoid association with those who are asat or materialistic. There are two kinds of materialists, one attached to women and sense gratification, the other simply a non-devotee. On the positive side is association with the Mahatmas, and the negative side is avoidance of non-devotees and women hunters. So needless to say, these are Rishabdev's instructions to his son, and Prabhupada spent so many classes repeating the same instructions to his students or his followers, because it's important. And, it's authoritative, and Prabhupada put on the boxing gloves, and Sacco, he was really strong. Because it's important. If someone is driving a car and they're falling asleep at the wheel, you got to do something. So this human form of life is powerful. It's meant to give perfection, as he's using expression here, and give protection for those that are not in the human form of life. And then, the flip is what's going on. So persons are falling asleep at the wheel. You have this very powerful, potentially powerful form of life and misusing it, heading for the ditch, falling asleep. Dangerous. Wake up, wake up. Now all of us are here. Here we are. It's just a nice setting. I can imagine it's going to be fantastic as the summer rolls around, and especially have a canopy that's fireproof, and the city gives permission to put it up because it's fireproof. That'll be nice. Nice place. Wait till the winter comes. That's another story. But, so far. Okay. So this is good. This is very nice. And thank all of you for coming to attend the Sunday program and attend the initiation and chant and dance with us. So thank you all very much. And cooking in the kitchen, and all of you, all the nice services that you've done. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yeah, Maharaj.
Being in the association of devotees, sometimes like salsa, it's a little hot.
Salsa. Yeah, I know what salsa is. I know it is.
So my question is, how should we deal with it? And are there times where we should just not make any issue, and times when we should make?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes just button your lip, and sometimes it's time to say something. So now, what? Now, next question: how do you discern when you say something and when you button your lip? Well, that requires intelligence, and if one doesn't have intelligence, you've got a problem. Because generally, intelligent persons do the opposite. They make.
That won't work, Januna.
No, don't go in front of the.
When you put anything in front of the microphone, yeah, he's
Don't
got
put-
the red mic. You have to have it down whenever it's not right in front of somebody.
Don't go in front
Hare
of.
Krishna.
When
This
you
one
put the
works.
mic in front of a speaker, you will get horrible sound. It never fails because that's the way electronics work.
Nice try.
Now, if somebody wants to say something, go up to them, and our Sundar Sham will turn the volume control up on that microphone.
Okay, there's a little technology issue. Well, you'll figure it out between now and next time, whenever that's going to be. It takes intelligence, and you get intelligence from super soul. So make your super soul connection strong, and and have good association. Because if you can't discern, you ask somebody that can discern. And if you don't have somebody proximate, better, my mother said, you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. I spent a lot of time not saying anything at all. My sister told me that, my older sister. You're always very quiet. Not very intelligent. Yeah, the one of the principles is if there's transgression against the personality of Godhead or a devotee of the personality of Godhead, that's a time to not say something. Here's a nice example from Mahabharata. No, from Ramayana. The scene is Chitrakoot. Chitrakoot is the place where it was recommended for Sitaram and Lakshman to stay for the final year of the 14 years. So they're in Chitrakoot. And while they're in Chitrakoot, Lakshman gets in this melancholy mood. He starts feeling how unfortunate Bharata is. Because the three of us, we're here in the forest, but we have each other's associations. How wonderful it is to have each other's association. He goes on about how wonderful it is. Then he starts thinking of Bharat, and Bharat is back in Ayodhya, living like we're living, but without us. He's living, wearing tree bark and sleeping on the floor, matted locks, and he's doing all this austerity. And he doesn't have our association. Then he starts thinking about why. And he starts mentioning Kaikeyi, and Ram cuts him off. Don't speak about Kaikeyi. You can speak all you want about Bharata, that's okay. Don't speak bad things about, and Kaikeyi, she's the cause why they're in the forest and why Bharata is sitting doing what he's doing because of Kaikeyi. He wouldn't allow him to speak badly. So that's an example of when you don't say something. And it depends on the circumstance, but don't criticize another. Be very, very, very wary. And sometimes people they think they got a reason to be a vilifier. Beware. If something needs to be said in the right place, time, circumstance, then take culture, and it takes intelligence. If you don't have culture and intelligence, bite your tongue. Anyone else? Yeah.
How
We're
do
not going to give you the microphone because you're sitting right by the speaker here.
you, how do you discern mind from truth?
How do you just discern mind
From truth.
from truth? Scripture. Because for the most part, we're not situated in Scripture, we're situated in the mind. And so whatever the mind, generally speaking, when people see something and have some conception of something within the mind, they're right. Just ask them, they'll tell you they're right. And try to tell them they're not right. They're like, I'm right. That's the mind. So then you hold that up to what Scripture says. Generally, it's not transparent. The mind doesn't see what Scripture says. It sees what the mind sees. So that's a standard. Then, along with Scripture, because that's the pinnacle, then Guru and Sadhu align themselves with Scripture. So they're a good source to find out what's the mind and what's truth. You go to Sadhu and Guru, because they see the Scripture. That's their absorption. Guru Sadhu Shastra. Yeah. Someone. Okay, maybe wait. Someone else had their hand up, but you go ahead.
Maharaj, I tend to think about duties I have beyond the preaching, the sadhana, the direct devotional service type
Okay.
activities, so to speak. I tend to think of that as also part of devotional service.
Yes, it is.
And
I hope it is.
yeah, and so Maharaj, just like when my experience would be in preaching, when it would sometimes it would seem to get incredibly tough, and like it was beyond my control to fulfill my duty the way that I was intending, and then I would, when my intelligence was functioning better, then I would pray to Krishna with the recognizing that he's in control and ask him, like, if you want to help here, please do, because like there's nothing more I can do, kind of. And then sometimes that would be amazing things would happen, like maybe we'd have a dry spell of distributing no books to anyone for
Sometime.
an hour or two on end, and then all of a sudden everyone was taking books after that sort of experience would happen. And so that's my experience in direct devotional service. And I guess what I'm wondering about is, since I see duties I have other than that kind of preaching also as devotional service, even if it's not exactly the same, I guess sometimes I'm in predicaments that also seem like I've done everything I can, and at one point I just let Krishna know, like, I think I should be doing this service, but I can't really, it's not going to really work unless you arrange for such and such event to occur, and would you like to do that? But I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing, but I give up, basically. It's up to you now. And I'm just wondering if you think that this is what you think of that sort of approach.
I have a question for you.
Mr.
How is this on topic?
Well,
Mahatmanas.
I guess I was thinking about that myself before I asked Mark. I was looking at the 5-1 and it was
It's a stretch.
a little too much.
Let me get a little response to your question. One of the things I do, I mentioned already, is I listen every day, around 2 hours plus minus, to Srila Prabhupada. And there are not too many, but there are some circumstances where Prabhupada, people would ask a question, and he'd ask the question before he gave an answer. What does this have to do with the topic? And they would be silent, or they say, well, it's really not really on topic. And then Prabhupada would say, we just spent 45 minutes discussing something, and if I took questions that were off topic, then the 45 minutes spent on topic would just be diffused. And then, so he didn't answer. My faulty memory says he didn't reprimand people. He just wouldn't he wouldn't get off topic because he wanted to focus to stay focused. And then people switched to on-topic questions. So I like the question, but it's off topic.
Hare Krishna. I apologize, Maharaj. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Got your hand in the cookie jar.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Krishna Kumari.
From the Freeport, it just seems like, I spent some time with Bala Vancha Prabhu, and he said, we're still in the experimental stages.
Of?
ISKCON, Gaudiya Vaishnava in the West. And I'm just wondering, this purport saying, anyone that's not a devotee, I shouldn't associate with them. That's kind of what I'm hearing, and I just, it doesn't sit well with me. So I'm just wondering if we can speak to that.
Sure.
Because, I'm seeing everyone as
Well, you're pretty advanced devotee. But even if you're not an advanced devotee, how do you digest that statement? Because we're in a world where there's lots of non-devotees. So the Prabhupada's answer to that specific question, I heard it spoken of 3 times, and his answer was, of course, because we're in the world, we associate with people that are in the world. We're not cold, but the meaning of this is socially, yes. Intimately, no. It's the intimacy. And, as much as is practical. Now, Prabhupada would have conversation with all kinds of people about all kinds of things that had nothing to do with, apparently, with Krishna Bhakti. Because it was just, he was being appropriate with the circumstance. And then he would somehow manage, in his conversation with those people, to bring it in the direction of, at least, of something transcendental. He would ask a question or make a remark or something. So so let's go back to your question. When associating with person, because we are to discriminate, the Madhyama, there's the Supreme Lord, and make friends with the devotees. Serve the elevated souls, make friends with the devotees, preach to the innocent, and avoid the atheists. So that's the Madhyama requirement, the mandate. So if you're on the Uttama platform, then congratulations. But most of us aren't. So it's appropriate for most of us. And the meaning is, don't intimately associate. You associate as is socially appropriate, but not overly with intimacy with worldly people, because the worldly people, that which they are interested in is worldly stuff. Now, just because you're bringing this question up, and I just spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours with Yogeshwara, this topic came up between the two of us. Not, how do you understand that verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita? But, a lot of his life is involved with people that are of the world, but not spiritually inclined. But he manages by just being internally who he is, and it shines. And he knows how to handle himself with people that aren't like he is, but they feel who he is, and they're moved by who he is, and it moves people because of what's inside, while he's interacting with them on the outside like he's, like they are, but he's not interested in finding happiness in a desert. So what's inside comes out. So you associate as is necessary and make confidential association with devotees. That's Prabhupada. Okay. I think it's time to end. It's a little chilly. You want to say something? Go ahead.
All right, you were speaking of anger and the personality of the Vasa of the mind, was equal to anger.
Yeah.
When compared to him, to Ambrish Maharaj, we say Ambrish Maharaj that devotee, that is why Durvasa, the yogis, become angry. But Durvasa Muni, when he was chased by the fiery demon, he reached Lord Vishnu.
Yeah.
So how can we understand that?
He was a mystic.
The anger.
No. He reached the Lord Vishnu because he was a mystic. He could travel here and there. No, he's not just anger. He's an empowered person, easily angered and easily pleased, like Lord Shiva. Easily angered and he's a partial incarnation of Lord Shiva. So easily angered and easily pleased. Look at the benediction that he gave to Srimati Radharani. You know that Durvasa Muni and Radharani story, right? Yeah, here's the story for those of you that don't know the story. Durvasa Muni was passing through Vrindavan, and people knew his reputation. Uh-oh, Durvasa Muni, look out, head for the hills. And then, but the gopis saw Durvasa Muni thinking he was a great sage. And Durvasa Muni was received very nicely by some young girls in Vrindavan. And they said, is there something we can do for you? He said, yes, I'm very hungry. They said, well, they looked at each other and said, well, we're off in the fields. You give us a few minutes, we'll run back home quickly and we'll prepare something. We'll bring it. Just stay right here. We'll be right back. He said, no, you don't understand. I'm very hungry. I want something right now. So they looked at Radharani and she nodded. She said, Radharani's going to make you some biscuits right now. And she's going to make it with some water and some dust from Vrindavan. And she reached and she made some biscuits. And he said, what? You expect me to eat that? And they said, you don't know, Radharani is very gifted. Just try one. Radharani's biscuits. So he bit into, this is Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj. Those of you who've been on yatras with Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj, you've heard this story 20 times. He bit into one. He was like in disbelief, ready to spit it out. It was really good. So he ate the whole thing. Then he asked for some more. And he ate the whole thing. And then he gave a benediction. Easily pleased, he gave a benediction to Radharani. The benediction he gave to Radharani was two. Whatever you cook, each thing you cook will never taste the same as the other thing you cooked. And anyone who eats your cooking, they'll live a long life and be very healthy. Easily pleased. So the word got back. Radharani told her mother, you know what happened today? So when her mother, Kirtida, heard this, she went and told her dear friend, Yashoda. And Yashoda said, oh, can you arrange for your daughter to come and cook for my son? Because he'll live a long life and never become ill and everything will be nice. So from that time, before early little girl Radharani, she was cooking for Krishna every day. Compliments of Durvasa Muni. He's not just easily angered, he's easily pleased. He's a partial incarnation of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva would also give benedictions, but he would also, don't cross Lord Shiva. You're in problem. So now your question is, where did the anger come from? He's a partial incarnation, but he had mystic powers. So he could do this and do that. But you have mystic powers. Don't mess with Maharaj Ambarish. Don't mess with a Vaishnava. Don't offend a Vaishnava. And he was going to kill Maharaj Ambarish with his fiery demon. Shoo. Okay, we're going to end. And it's time for what?
More arti.
More arti. Now, I have a flight tomorrow morning, and so I'm going to disappear. I'm not going to stay for arti. I hope that's okay. Because if it's not okay, it's okay anyways. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. His Holiness Sarvapaswa Maharaj ki.